everybody. Today's review is quite lengthy, so no time for sarcastic quips, jokes, or me talking about really pointless things. No chit-chatting, we're just going to get straight into the review. The Curse of La Llorona, also known as The Curse of the Weeping Woman, is a 2019 American supernatural horror film directed by Michael Chavez in his directorial debut. Written by Mickey Daughtry and Tobias Iaconis, it is the sixth entry in the Conjuring universe and takes place between The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2 in the universe's timeline. It sees a social worker and her two children drawn into a frightening supernatural realm after she ignores warnings from a troubled mother suspected of child endangerment. I am astonished and thrilled to say that The Curse of La Llorona is the first good entry into the Conjuring universe that wasn't directed by James Wan. I found myself so impressed with Chavez's work on this film that it has given me hope for The Conjuring 3, which Chavez is also set to direct with a release expected for 2020. With now 6 entries in total, I feel the films are dead even for hits and misses. For me now, its success comes from The Conjuring 2, and now The Curse of La Llorona, with its fails being Annabelle, Annabelle Creation, and The Nun, which is by far the most disgraceful of the bunch. With the 7th entry to the universe, Annabelle Comes Home, coming later this year, it has me wondering in what way that film will tip the scales for the franchise. Though given that Gary Doberman is returning yet again to write this 3rd Annabelle installment, it's not looking good. Add that to the fact it will be Doberman's directorial debut, and I can say my outlook towards this film is bleak. One thing I really must discuss is Chavez's camera work. Throughout the film, I was internally commenting on how impressed I was with his technique and style. There were a significant number of camera techniques used in this film, and if you had listed them to me, I would have said these don't work together, but to my surprise, they did. We had a couple of long shots done in one take that takes us around a large area following one character, but other characters intersecting as we move around it. It was fluid and seamless, and while just beautiful to watch the camera in motion, it also felt disorienting, which I liked. It made it feel as though the camera itself was a menacing presence following and observing these characters, which kept in theme with the film. Such a strange thing to notice and love, but I love the clouds in this film. Yes, this is not your everyday remark. In every external shot, there are dark storm clouds in the sky with the occasional beautiful shots of lightning strikes. It's dark and foreboding, but at the same time so entrancing. I love storm clouds. They keep the film feeling bleak until we reach the end of the film and suddenly you realize the sky is clear with not a cloud to be seen and the sun can finally shine. It's a literal depiction that the nightmare is over and light has won over dark. It's such a simple thing, but was so well executed that it was making me quite excited. Chavez appears to be a fan of misdirection, and I love this technique in horror films. Some films like to do what I call a fake out jump scare. You can see a jump scare is coming, but they extend the moment long enough that you are lulled into a false sense of security, and then that's the moment they get you. While there is no shortage of jump scares in this film, I felt they were well done with nice twists to each one. Instead of the slow lead up to a jump scare that pauses then gets you, you have them leading to a jump scare, stop, and then have the jump scare come from a completely different camera shot. You're so focused on expecting the scare to come from where the camera is pointing that you don't expect the camera to pan to a different spot and catch you off guard. Some people find jump scares cheap. I personally love them and would rather have 50 jump scares than none at all. I like to think that even people who are not fans of jump scares will enjoy this because at least the film attempts to depict them in a slightly fresh way. While the scenes that lead to them are predictable and you do see them coming, the fact that there is a different technique behind them makes it a little bit more interesting. If you thought I was done talking about Chavez's camera work, you were wrong. Chavez, along with cinematographer Michael Burgess, managed to use and intensify the absence of light. Okay, so that might not make sense, so let me try to explain. Many scenes in this movie take place in the dark. No shock there, as evil thrives in the dark. During many of these moments, we see La Llorona very present, but instead of casting light upon her or shining light from below or using a filter to allow us to see her in the dark, they choose to leave her in the pitch black. But they focus on these spots long enough that the camera adjusts and you see the figure in the darkness. The camera acts very much like our eyes, how once we're in pitch black we see nothing, but if we give them a minute to adjust, suddenly we can make out shapes and images within the black. And that's precisely precisely what this film depicted, and I thought it was brilliant. It truly made La Llorona feel like a dark, threatening presence in the movie. This film depicts the events that are occurring mostly from the perspective of the children, which is very common for the Conjuring universe films. On the one hand, it's not something we haven't seen before, but on the other hand, it's still effective. Children are innocent and are very susceptible to hauntings because they are still able to believe in the things that go bump in the night. So watching these events unfold through the eyes of a helpless and terrified child is a great way to be able to have that fear reflected upon the audience. Jaynee-Lynne and Roman Cristal did a terrific job in this film, and you have to admire the work of child actors in horror films. Linda Cardellini, who plays the children's mother, also does a brilliant job. We very clearly see not only her exhaustion from being a single parent going at this alone, but her fear is plastered all over her face. She fears for her children and herself and has no idea how to protect them. We see her going through a mother's greatest fear, and she does it well. There's an interesting subject matter included using the character Linda, and I'm unsure if it was deliberate or not, but this is how I interpreted it. Subjective art at its finest. Linda works as a social worker, and when she stumbles upon the events unfolding around one of her cases, she instantly sees abuse. When it starts happening to her, those around her see abuse as well. It reminded me that it's something common, not just in today's society, but for people who work in stressful and hard settings such as social work. You are so used to seeing abuse day after day that it ends up being all you see. We've become so warped by the evil in the world that we would never even consider that maybe it's nothing, or maybe there's another explanation, no matter how bizarre it may seem. Children get a bump on their head from playing outside these days, and if you take your child to hospital, best believe CPS won't be far behind. It's such a warped view of the world, and I felt it was depicted in this film. It was just these combined human storylines that helped to keep the film somewhat grounded. Before watching this, I had some issues with the choices made for the film. I could not understand why the film is set in Los Angeles, yet the film is using a story from Mexican folklore. But watching it, it didn't seem so far-fetched. Los Angeles has a solid Latin base, and the nature of folklore is that it travels. So while folklore originates in one place, it never stays there. It migrates and grows and takes on a life of its own, following its people wherever they go. And so with that in mind, I think this works. From what little I know about the story of La Llorona, it appeared that the film tried to stay true to the story itself and just intensify it, and for all intents and purposes, it works. With all these pros now out of the way, time to list some cons. While I would have loved to say this is a flawless film, it's not. One of my biggest issues is that the film overuses La Llorona. She makes far too many appearances on screen, and when she is there for too long. This is also something depicted in The Nun, and I didn't like it then either. After about the third time seeing La Llorona on the screen, she loses impact. You've seen her face so much and so clearly that you start to see the woman behind the makeup, and then it no longer feels real. While the jumps were still there, they were short-lived. By the time they are over, I'm comfortable and relaxed again. I never had that intense feeling of suspense, and I was never overcome with paranoia, which I want. I want to feel those moments when, even if nothing is happening, I'm so in the movie's thrall that I'm questioning if there is something or someone behind me. Overall, I was quite relaxed and still had a lovely night's sleep when I got home, which is not what I hoped for. I wanted this film to leave an impression. I wanted my heart pounding hours after the movie was over, and I didn't get that. We also have characters who weren't used how they should have been. Raymond Cruz's Rafael Olvera was underutilized. He's there and he appears knowledgeable, but he doesn't do much of anything. He does, however, provide some down-to-earth levity, the kind you find people giving in tense situations. Sure, he performs the occasional blessing, but aside from that, his character felt wasted. Patricia Velasquez, who plays Patricia Alvarez, now she is overutilized. She's a great way to introduce La Llorona and set up the events that are to follow, But that's where they should have left it. Instead, they use her twice more, and neither time was necessary. They use her to say she sent La Llorona after Linda's children, which is pushing things. Then they have her somehow finding Linda's house and getting in to hand deliver the children to a malevolent spirit. While her motives make sense, she should not have been used beyond the start of the film. Of course, she has a change of heart and helps the mother who she scorned just 5 minutes ago, but then she disappears. She's not present for the final confrontation. She's just there 1 minute, gone the next, and there is no closure to her character. Since they felt compelled to keep using her, to have her vanish and not be mentioned was poor writing. On top of that, I have to ask myself, why did La Llorona come for her and her children in the first place? This too was never explained. I did not at all enjoy how they destroy La Llorona. While I love the special effects they used during her destruction because it felt like something I hadn't seen before, the fact that they treated her like a vampire was both disappointing and laughable. All it took was a piece of wood made from the tree that hung over the place where La Llorona murdered her children, driven straight to her heart, and it was bye-bye spirit. It felt too easy and like a cop-out. She's a spirit, not a vampire. She shouldn't be solid in the first place. It felt too convenient and like this ending was not thought through, and for that reason, I did not like it. Also, when we are introduced to La Llorona's origins at the start of the film, there is a moment where the way she moves and acts almost gives the impression that she was possessed when she murdered her children. I'm unsure if this was them getting carried away with the scene, or if they intend to reveal in a future film that a demon was behind the creation of La Llorona. Either way, it felt as though it was pulling away from the folklore just a bit, and it made me confused as they never elaborated on it. This film is tied to the Conjuring universe through the inclusion of Father Perez, played by Tony Amendola. The character of Father Perez previously made an appearance in Annabelle, and while it's a subtle way of tying the two films together, and Annabelle does get a mention, I'm not sure it was the right choice. Father Perez very quickly got involved with the Annabelle case, which did not turn out great for him, but in this case, he is quick to stay out of it merely due to church rule. It felt contradictory and as though they only wished to use him to tie events together, but then had to think of a reason for him not to be used beyond that. While I appreciate that this film chooses to focus on more Latin spiritual practices, which are in keeping with the folklore it is based on, I believe they could have gone there another way. There was never a shortage of foreshadowing in this film either, and I wouldn't say that was a bad thing, more clever but in a cute way. Several moments were filmed in such a way that you knew these very moments would be depicted again later in the film for one reason or another. While these foreshadowings did not coincide with any significant moments, it was clever how seamlessly they lined up, but at the same time, because they weren't significant, it felt like they weren't needed. They almost felt as though they were there for the sake of showing that the director or writers are capable of doing foreshadowings, which is great for a resume, but just didn't fit the context of the film. Another issue I wish to mention has nothing to do with the film and all to do with the film's marketing, which has not been that great in my opinion. Many are still completely unaware that this film is an entry in the Conjuring universe, while many know James Wan produced it and as such is being advertised as from the producer of the Conjuring universe. It hasn't been advertised as being an installment in said universe, and perhaps if it was, it might be getting more notice. My other complaint is the number of locations that are promoting this under its English title, The Curse of the Weeping Woman. The film is inspired by Mexican folklore and the character is Mexican. Aside from only one scene in the film, she is called La Llorona during the entire film. So trying to appeal to non-Latin folk by promoting it under its English title irritates me. I would rather it stay true to its original title and represent Latin culture proudly and not try to dull it down for people. While it's not perfect and does have some issues here and there, it does a whole lot more right than it does wrong and is still a vast improvement improvement on what we've had so far in this universe, Conjuring films not included. It not only gives me hope for the future of this universe, but it gives me great hope for what's to come in The Conjuring 3. For Chavez's directorial debut, I think he is off to a great start and has shown he has a great talent, and I can see great things for his future. While the scary moments didn't linger and it hasn't left me traumatized or needing to sleep with the lights on, it was still a solid film and far exceeded all of my expectations. Didn't take as long as I expected. Wow. So my Sabrina review still is longer. God damn. Anyway, yes, loved it. Was so happy watching this. I was so apprehensive. I thought it was kind of shit. I liked the trailer, and the trailer made me jump, but usually if the trailer makes me jump, then I don't jump at all in the movie. But I jumped a few times, and it wasn't the only one. It was really quite entertaining watching all the other people in the cinema all jump at the same time multiple times, and then as soon as it was over, everybody kind of giggles like, oh, we all jumped. It was like that quick go, and then quickly the adrenaline wears off. But I would have liked that heart-pounding moment to last longer. The rush that you get from a jump scare, which is kind of the whole reason why people like jump scares, unless you're someone who doesn't like them. But one of the main reasons we like them is because it's like a shot of adrenaline. And if the film is done right, you can keep that sensation going even after the jump scare is over. But this one, the adrenaline just wore off too quickly, and then I get the next one, but it was a quick fix. It was a little fix, and I wanted a bigger dose. That's all I have to say on that. So thank you so much for watching. If you have seen this film or you want to see this film, whichever one it is, please comment down below and share your thoughts on it, and I will attempt to read it and reply. So thank you for watching, and until next time, bye.